Can you hear me okay, Raymond? Are you trying to talk to me? Let me see. You
Do you want me to do this at my desk? You want me to?
can try.
Do you have the link? Can you?
How about that? Now you can hear me. Now you're on mute.
We can hear you.
Okay, all right. Technical difficulties, technology, and all that good stuff. So, like I was saying before, Yolanda had just told me via text that she's going to sing and do a drop for the show. Do you sing, Maureen?
Oh, no, I have a daughter who's very talented, but no.
Oh, okay. So maybe
Not unless you want to frighten away your listeners.
oh man, listen. They've got strong stomachs. They put up with 3 hours of me every Tuesday. So listen, we have the well, you know what? Rather than me butcher her title, Maureen, can you introduce yourself and tell our listeners exactly what your title is and what it is you do and how they can get on the ball and get registered to vote before midnight tonight?
Absolutely. My name is Maureen Bugdon, and I'm the Atlantic County Superintendent of Elections and Commissioner of Registration. So my role is heavily involved in the registration and updating of registrations for Atlantic County voters, approximately 200,000 of them. And our office is the police powers of election. We do investigations. We also program the voting machines, the electronic poll books, rove the field, looking for anything that's out of whack on election day, making sure that we're upholding the integrity of our elections and make sure that there's no intimidation at polling sites so that voters can exercise of the franchise in an intimidation-free environment.
All right, and we thank you for the work that you do. It's eminently important that everyone who can be a part of the process is encouraged and allowed to be a part of the process. Before we get into backstories and all kind of other things like that, I want to make sure that I have my information right. Today is the cutoff day, correct?
Today is the deadline to register to vote for the November 5th general election, correct?
Correct. And I'm correct assuming that they have until midnight tonight to register online?
If they're going online, that would be correct. If they're at vote.nj.gov, following the prompts to register to vote, that would be accurate. Our office is in Mays Landing on Main Street, and also the Atlantic City office in the county office building on 1333 Atlantic Avenue are both open until 9 p.m. for anybody needing special assistance or wanting to register on a paper form in person because they don't have access to a smartphone or a computer in order to register online.
How many people, and I guess you can't give me numbers, but can you give me an idea of how many people register in person, either voter registration drives or coming into the offices versus people who actually utilize the online access tools?
Portals, sure. Well, in a year like this, our counter business is quite busy. We've already had probably 10 registrants this morning. However, the main way that folks register to vote now is through motor vehicle updates. We're an opt-out state, so if you have a motor vehicle transaction, that information is used to update your voter registration or create a new voter registration unless you tell motor vehicles no, right? And then others through vote.nj.gov. Those make up the bulk of our registrations. But we still get the ones at the counter, and we love that. We love dealing with the public every day. So it's probably 100 to 1 comparatively. Used to be on a day like today, when I first became superintendent about 10 years ago, we'd have a line at the door. right? Now, because of these online options, most of that has gone away, but we still get visitors every single day, year round, especially as we approach the close during a presidential.
Wow, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the morning show edition, and we're on with Maureen Bugdon. And you know what? I am so sorry. I don't have your card and my cheat sheet right in front of me. Can you one more time tell the people your title, because I want to make sure that I get it right. You took time out of your busy schedule to be with us. I want to make sure that I get the information correct. What's your
Oh my
title?
goodness. I very much appreciate that. So the easiest way, I married into this name, since divorced, but that's okay. If there's a bug flying around your head and you smack it, it's done. That's how you pronounce my last name, Bugdon,
Okay.
right? My first name is Maureen, and I am the Atlantic County Superintendent of Elections and Commissioner of Registration.
Okay. All right. Now, since we have you on the phone, I just want to make sure uh, the information I've been sharing with my listeners is correct. I want you to verify or co-sign. Um, if you're 17, but you'll be 18 by November 5th, you can register to vote, correct?
Yes, you can register to vote, and here's a sneaky little secret. This is a fun fact. Not only can you register to vote, suppose your birthday is November 5th. You are totally entitled to register to vote right now. And you would actually be placing your first vote if you went to early voting, or if you voted by mail, you would actually be placing your first vote as a 17-year-old. And that would be acceptable because that vote is not processed until November 5th, when you will be 18 years old.
Wow. See, you get the inside scoop right here on the morning show edition. I did not know that.
Sure.
Okay, so could you talk to me about people who may be on parole or probation? Which one of those, or can both of those people register to vote?
They can both register to vote, as long as you are not serving a sentence of incarceration. New Jersey's law changed several years ago, and you are free to register to vote. You can participate in this election.
Okay, all right. Let's see what else I can ask. Again, midnight tonight, the deadline, you can go to newjersey.gov and they have the prompts that will take you right there to register to vote. Updating my voter status, what's the easiest way to do that? Let's say I moved from Elm Street to Walnut Street.
So the easiest way, especially today, right, would be to go to that website again, vote.nj.gov. Even though you're in this situation already registered to vote, you're going to go in, follow the prompts to the registration portal, and put in your new information. When that information is sent over within seconds to our office, our personnel pull up your information within the system. They're going to find you at your previous address, and they're going to update your voter profile so you have no problems when you go to vote, because you're going to want to go to your correct polling site. Interesting thing, and as a member of the media, Raymond, this is something important to remember. You vote where you live. You don't vote where you used to live. You don't vote where you're going to be moving into in a week, unless that's on election day, right, within our county. You vote where you currently live. And sometimes that gets tricky. So, in other words, if you lived in Hamilton Township, Mays Landing, New Jersey, but you moved to Ventnor the week before the election, you don't go back to Mays Landing to vote. You vote in your current district, because here's why: you're no longer eligible for the Mays Landing ballot, for the lower portion of the ballot. You're no longer a citizen of Mays Landing, so you don't have a right to then pick Mays Landing representatives at the township committee level. You vote where you live in Ventnor. And you can move around within Atlantic County often, right? As long as you are an Atlantic County voter, you're going to register or update your registration for the town you are currently living in. You vote where you live. And if you've run out of time, you're going to still go to your Ventnor polling site, vote there, probably by provisional ballot. And that provisional ballot is going to be used to update your voter registration. And as long as you are eligible in every other way, that vote is going to be counted by the Board of Elections. So, but you vote where you live. So if folks call in and they ask you that, the only time you ever return to a former polling site is when you haven't lived in Atlantic County long enough to meet the residency requirements. If you've moved within 21 days of the election from another county or another state, it's the only time it gets a little sticky. And that's a special situation that we research in this office. For all other purposes, you vote where you live in Atlantic County.
All right, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Light Morning Show edition. We are here with Maureen Bugdon, right? Bugdon.
You got it.
From the
Yes,
Atlantic
indeed.
County Board of Elections.
Atlantic County
Atlantic County
Superintendent of Election.
Superintendent of Elections, and we're discussing making sure that you are registered to vote in the upcoming presidential election. Now, somebody just texted me and they wanted to know what is a provisional ballot and when would I use a provisional ballot rather than a regular mail-in ballot. And that's coming from Erica.
Okay, fair enough. So a provisional ballot, and I'm going to tell you, this is really something important as well. I'm so glad for Erica asking that question. Most of the provisionals in the state of New Jersey, and when I say most, I'm talking upwards of 80%, sometimes as high as 99%, if you can imagine, are due to folks receiving a vote by mail ballot and not returning it. So a provisional ballot is used in those instances because you have a live ballot somewhere in your possession. And you can't go into a voting machine to place a standard ballot vote because the integrity of those votes contained within the voting machine have to be for folks who have no other vote on file or vote sent to them, if that makes sense. So you go in and you place your standard vote. Now, when you show up, we don't know if that vote is in transit, if the United States Postal Service has it, if the Board of Elections has already received that vote by mail and are processing it. So if you mailed it early, because they go out in September, they're really dispatched early these days.
Okay.
If you received a vote by mail ballot and you can't remember if you voted it or you lost it, you discarded it, maybe it never came, you're going to show up to vote in a machine. They're going to issue you a provisional ballot, similar to a vote by mail in that you're filling out an affirmation envelope. They'll hand you a voter activation card, a ballot activation card, rather. You're going to take it into the machine. You're going to vote as you normally would if you were a regular voter, but instead of depositing that ballot into the machine where it is secured, it's going to eject it for insertion into the envelope. And you're going to return that envelope to the poll workers, and it comes back to our office when the polls close. Then what happens, right? What happens is we take a look at your voter information through the statewide voter registration system. Even if we see that a vote by mail ballot has been issued to you, as long as it hasn't been voted and received by the Board of Elections, that provisional ballot is going to advance for counting. So it protects the integrity of the machine vote, which indeed is the main integrity of the election, because that's how most voters vote, is by machine, right? So it protects that sacred count, if you will.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Light So to follow up on that question, just because I know from when I met you at the NAACP meeting, if somebody votes a early voting ballot and they forget to sign it or they forget to fill out something, you guys play like Inspector Gadget to track them down and to make sure that they get that ballot correct, right?
Okay. Yeah, and let me just follow up on that. Indeed, that is correct, but not an early vote. It would specifically be a paper ballot of some kind, whether a provisional ballot or a vote by mail ballot, right? If something is amiss, New Jersey state law now allows for what's called a ballot cure. And yeah, we do everything in our power to track down that voter to make sure they cure their information so their vote can advance for counting by the Board of Elections, right? If you are at a polling site for early voting or on election day itself, and your information is completely accurate within the statewide voter registration system, you haven't been issued any other kind of ballot, you're going to go into the machine, you're going to cast your vote, and you're done, right? You don't have to do anything else. You're not advancing to that machine until you give a signature to the poll workers, and they verify it's a match to the signature on file, right? So, and that's the way the bold majority of our folks in this county do vote. And hopefully it's seamless and they don't experience any drama at the polls. Provisional ballot voting that we were just talking about can also occur, as I mentioned earlier, if something is missing in your voter profile, if you've moved within the county without notifying the Commissioner of Registration, which is me. We need to, again, make sure that that provisional ballot is filed and voted correctly, not who you picked, but which races you picked. So, for instance, let's go back to the example, I moved to Ventnor, right? But I don't know where I'm supposed to be voting. I'm comfortable in Mays Landing where I used to live. I don't know any better. And maybe I'm working in Mays Landing. I don't have time to get to Ventnor on election day. If I go to the Mays Landing polling site, my former polling site, and I tell the poll workers, no, I don't have time to find the new Ventnor site. Listen, I want to get my vote in. This is a presidential election. They're going to say, or should say, all we can do is offer you a provisional ballot. So when you vote that ballot on the machine and provide your Ventnor address, right? It's ejected to you, gets inserted in the envelope, right? When that vote, that envelope comes back to us sealed, we don't look at it. We don't care how you voted. We just want to make sure your vote is processed correctly. If we see that you now live in Ventnor, when that ballot is forwarded to the Board of Elections, it's going to indicate top of ticket voter. Now I'm getting into some of the nitty-gritty of elections. What does that mean? Just as we spoke previously, if you no longer live in Mays Landing and you're actively living in Ventnor, you cannot vote for Mays Landing bottom of the ticket. So that's going to be a hand-counted ballot. The confidential nature of it is still going to be kept intact. And there's a way by which the ballot is actually processed so that nobody knows how you voted. And I'd really be getting into nitty-gritty on that. But the point is, that's how you protect the integrity of the votes throughout the entire ballot, right? So it's super important. And what your listeners need to remember, and I believe I mentioned it the night at the NAACP event, there is absolutely no reason on God's green earth where you should ever leave a polling site without at least being offered a provisional ballot to vote, if that is your choice. If you don't want to go to the correct polling site for where you now live. Even if they don't believe you to be a registered voter, you should still be offered a provisional ballot. And the beauty in that is, even if that ballot can't be counted because you didn't register on time or you didn't live here on time and things like that, the information contained on that envelope with all of your identifiers, your address, date of birth, name, signature, is going to be used to register you for the next election. So we don't have to chase you down again. You're done. You've got your information in, and it allows us to create a profile for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It's starting to get late, so I have to get in these last couple of questions. For somebody who has never early voted before, what is that process like as opposed to election day?
It is nearly identical to Election Day. And as an election official in the state of New Jersey, I'm going to beg your listeners, please early vote. Get that vote in the bank. The early voting locations, there are 7 in our county, and I can go over those with you, are open from October 26th, which is a Saturday, all the way through November 3rd. 10 to 8 p.m. daily and 10 to 6 on Sundays, right? What does that mean? Early voting was introduced several years ago in the state of New Jersey, and the turnout percentage for that is well under 10%. In fact, it's under 5%, right? With the bulk of our voters, as I mentioned, showing up on election day itself. So when you have a turnout of 30 or 40% on an off-year general election, not a problem. You go to the polls on election day, you may have to wait 2 minutes. There might be 2 people in front of you or something like that. This is a presidential year. We're going to be looking at turnouts in the 70 percentile. And with 200,000 voters approximately in our county, you can do the math. That's a very brisk, crowded polling site potentially on election day itself. But if you show up during early voting, you're going to be able to take your time. The turnout's not going to be that heavy. You can get the additional help you may need. And better yet, you can pick the day, maybe election day it rains. Maybe that impacts turnout. Well, get out when it's sunny. Get out one of those days when you happen to be in any one of our 7 locations, right? Atlantic City, Northfield, Mays Landing, Egg Harbor Township, Galloway, Hamilton, and Buena Vista Township, the Martin Luther King Center. There, you can go to any one of those locations, and when you give your name and address, just your street, you don't have to give the number, to the poll workers, they're going to pull you up in the electronic poll book and print out that ballot activation card we were talking about earlier. There's a little barcode at the top. Don't get nervous. It has no connection to you as the voter. That barcode indicates your ballot style for where you live. So when you go into a voting machine, if you're a Mays Landing voter, but you're voting at Corumba Hall at the Atlantic City early voting site, it's going to pull up your Mays Landing ballot. Okay? You're going to vote it just as you would on election day. You're going to vote that ballot. It's going to deposit it into the sealed bin for verification later in the auditing process, or if there's a close race. Otherwise, the mechanical computerized count is what you see on election night, the actual totals, right? It's going to put it in there. You're done. You go home, you've got that vote in the bank. You don't have to worry about how you're getting to the polls on election day itself. And it's just incredibly helpful. And why is it helpful specifically? Because you're not just avoiding what would otherwise perhaps be a wait, right? You're helping us with the percentage of early voting come up, and you're pulling some of that wait time off of election day. So you're creating a little bit more of a balance. So the folks that can't vote until election day, maybe because of their work schedule, or maybe they're out of the area, so they don't have quite a wait. And most importantly, in a very selfish way, so the election officials, the poll workers who only do this twice a year, don't have that additional pressure. Because unfortunately, we're a fast food mentality humanity, right? And we get a little bit aggravated when we have to wait in lines to pay for our food, through the drive-in or even on election day. And poll workers don't want to feel that pressure and they don't want to disappoint you.
Right. Okay, so early voting starts on October 26th in New Jersey.
Indeed.
And where is the Atlantic City location again, please?
Okay, so Atlantic City's early voting center is in Carumba Hall, which is on 15 North Georgia Avenue.
Okay,
If you're looking for a landmark, it's sort of right behind the Bass Pro Shops. It's right in that
okay,
vicinity. Beautiful free parking, nice large parking lot, nice large polling center. And again, you're going to do exactly what you would do if you voted on election day. Nothing is counted until 8 p.m. and tallied on election day itself.
right. So people know the NewJersey.gov voter information site will continue to give you updated information on how to vote past today, correct?
And that is correct. It's vote.nj.gov.
Okay. When do let's see, when do mail-in ballots go out?
Mail-in ballots have already been sent out. Now,
Oh, okay.
if you're requesting one now, it's going to be put in the mail in all likelihood by the end of today. But if you're on the all vote by mail or all elections this year kind of thing, if you're already in the database, you should have received your vote by mail ballot if you've already signed up for one. If you have not, you should contact the county clerk's office.
Okay. All right. All right. So I want to thank you for stopping by. I'm up against a break. I'm probably going to go long if we need to because this information is important. And as your schedule permits, I'm going to invite you to come back with more information because it's very, very valuable. Some people might not know this, but what happens if or when stroll in on election day, going to cast my vote? I don't recognize that machine because we have new machines.
We do. We have new machines, and I loved our old dinosaur machines, but they were becoming antiquated. And with all the rhetoric that's out there, unfortunately, suggesting that our elections are tainted, any new machine purchased in the state of New Jersey must include a verified paper trail. So what does that mean? Results are calculated in two ways and checks and balances. One on the internal memory of the machine and separately through the ballot activation cards, which are deposited into the machine when you vote. So there are random audits that are conducted by law to ensure they'll go back to the correct numbers so that we know they were placed. There's a verified, that's why it's called a verified paper trail. In any event, we purchased those machines a couple years ago. Many folks in our county, about 30%, have already used them. But if you haven't voted, if you're an every 4-year voter, you're going to see these machines. You may not recognize them. They are nothing more than a giant smartphone or a giant tablet. It's a touch screen. It's very simple. Once you make your selections, the ballot activation card prints in a view panel. You verify your votes and you hit cast ballot. It's extraordinarily simple. These machines are not connected to the internet, so there is no way they can be hacked. There is a severe system. New Jersey has one of the best systems of testing and sealing to secure those machines before they're even dispatched into the field on election day. And those same checks and procedures are verified when those machines come back. So you can feel that your vote has integrity, it is safe, it is secure, and the only time we're going to be upset with you is when you do not take the time to vote.
Wow. So there it is. And we're almost Right on the nose. You are listening to WLFR Pomona here on the campus of Stockton University. Of course, this is the mighty. We're recording this at the 91.7 WLFR studios. It will also be rebroadcast Friday on 106.5 WPPM in Philadelphia and Camden. So the people in Camden in Philly have their own thing, but a lot of this information we're sharing will also be available and good for the people who listen to the Friday show in Camden. Before I let you go, I'm going to give you the last word. Anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you that you want to share with the listeners?
Thank you, Raymond. First of all, I really appreciated the opportunity to come on your show, and I'd love to come back again in the future. If I could ask your listeners and you just one thing, election officials have taken a lot of heat in the last few years. It is a long hour, civic duty, patriotic thing when you become an election worker. And again, we don't care how you vote, we care that you do vote right. So please take the time to say thank you, whether you're showing up at the polls or in any interaction you have with an election worker. They are the heart of New Jersey's elections, and they really are working tirelessly for each and every voter in their respective county.
All right. Thank you so much for stopping by. Maureen, she is Maureen Bugdon, the Superintendent of Elections for Atlantic County.
That's correct. You
I
got
got
it.
it right. I get a gold star. Listen, even if you drop by and you don't want to talk elections, we can go through some music and hang out and drive my listeners crazy. Thank
There
you
you
so
go.
much. Tell Autumn I said hi and thank her as well for helping me set this up.
Terrific. I will absolutely do that. She's the bomb. She's terrific.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, so now we're going to sign off with Maureen.
Thank you. You have a great day, Ray.
Take care. Bye.